How many people have done any sword drawing, like with a real sword? Or an Iaito or anything? Okay? Basically, you're going to have it in your obi. If you have a guard, great. If you don't, there's a place where you can see where there would have been a guard. Okay? When it's in your obi, don't put it dead center, put it on the side, because that's actually more the way the Koryu guys would have worn them, because there's a short sword in the center. So it's not like Iaido. And if you stand with your elbows at your side, the sword should be out where? If you just bend your arm, your forefinger would be touching the guard. So a lot of people stick it in here, and you've actually already collapsed when you reach for the sword. That's not right. Okay? So it should be out far enough that... And so the left hand is actually not holding the sword. Technically, it's holding the saya, the scabbard. And the right hand moves that. So you got to have the left hand when you're doing what we're going to do. The left hand has to slide. And in order to actually cut, you have to actually extend out here, and then you take that hip off the sword. It's called sayabiki, the action of the hands going. And then you can cut, okay? So we're not going to spend a lot of time practicing that, but at the end of what we do, you're going to have to be able to do that. Okay, so anyway, let's bow in. Sword goes on the right. The tsuba guard is usually even with your knee. Okay, so I wanted to do some stuff that's going to totally relate to everything we've been doing, but it'll give you a picture on where this stuff came from, which I think will also give you a little picture on why I don't think I worry too much about how hard I can throw people, because it really wasn't important. Okay, so no sword. Actually, let me show you this first. Put the through your belt. What I want you to do is come up, and right hand is going to grab the ends of the ska, the handle. And your left hand is going to neutralize his draw. So this is actually a sword takeaway. You're going to come in here and connect to that. And now that whole wave that I was running out of my pelvis yesterday, where in, up, out, down, that does this. And when you take him down, okay, I'm going to take him down. I have to drop on it more than I did that time. I had too much out. He falls. If you're holding on here, he'll fall right off the sword. Then you cut him. There's no way for him to hold on. Okay? Because remember, one hand is not even on the sword, it's on the saya. And the other hand, actually, can I borrow your sword with the guard? Just so you can see. So you see this hand, this is the one that's holding the sword. See where the guard hits him? Right above that knuckle. Right in the soft spot. So if I do a push-pull here, that guard goes right into that, and now you got to allow that to slide. You don't get to hold that.
You're not pulling the saya.
Because you're holding the saya, okay? So there's an old one that doesn't break its balance, that just goes bam. The disadvantage is that he's still functional, is already reaching for his next weapon, and I didn't neutralize his ability to do something. So the better one is the one that takes the center. So I come in here, in, okay, don't be solid, in, up, see him get light? That's the float. And then down. In, up, in a little more, down. He should drop right there. There's no way he can hold that. as he falls off the sword, you cut him. Okay? Give this a try.
Thank you, sir.
This, a razor-sharp sword. When they dump you on the ground, the instinct that you have, that you were taught in empty hand, which is to immediately cover, is the wrong instinct for this. Go flat, don't move. Because putting the hand up into my cut will result in bad things for your hands. Okay? And if this were a real sword, it wouldn't help anyway. If you were really trying, if this was really a real sword and you were still alive when you were down there, you'd be trying to roll the hell out of there. But you sure as hell wouldn't be putting up anything up to defend because it wouldn't make any difference. Just go through that, go through you, go through everything. Doesn't matter. But so when you do these things, you watch, if you watch somebody like Toby Threadgill Sensei, Hizuka hits the floor and just goes, and then you trust that this guy can stop his sword where it needs to stop. You got to trust the guy. Which means you guys don't cut too close until you're sure you can stop your tip exactly where it's supposed to be. Okay? Thank you. Two basic waves in Daito-ryu, Aikiage and Aikisage. Aikiage is in, up, out, down, and it's the one that drops you on your butt. Aikisage goes in, up, back, down. It's the one that drops you on your face, usually into a kick. Okay? They're in Aikido, it's just nobody talks about them. I mean, I never heard these terms until I did Daito-ryu. And they actually have exercises. Very clear. All of a sudden I'm going, well, that's in our stuff. Because nobody actually bothered to mention it. It just was never identified as a particular thing. This technique is basically Aikiage. So here's the footwork. Very complicated. The hands go. So if I run that wave into him, I go in, up his spine, out the top of his head. That's what makes him light. Nice, he didn't have to fall, because I didn't do the down yet. Okay. So again, it's in and up, a little more in and down. And that's, we were talking about the pelvis, changing your spinal alignment. So in and up, I'm going this way. In and down, I'm going this way. The arms are technically not doing anything. The hands will move a little. Of course, you're holding on here, but there's a little up and a little down, a little up and a little down. That's it on the whole hand thing. The rest of it's coming from the core. Okay? So a little more. And then we're going to have you try and do it, and the other guy's not going to let you. Now, unless this guy has totally surprised me when I'm drunk or comatose, it's not like I don't see this guy walking up to grab this sword. So it's just like your regular Aikido. I don't actually have to be there. When I see him coming, what if I turn? So it's just like we were talking about with the empty hand. What I want to do is move in such a way that his line to my center is screwed up. In this case, the moment he moves, I'm doing this. You notice that? Remember we were talking about what moved first? It was not the feet. The hips already moved. The moment he comes here, I release this hip. That's going that way now. Now his power is past me. He cannot get his power here to hit me. The other thing is, once you turn like this, he can't pull the sword out because the sword's facing the other direction now. There's no way he's pulling the sword out. Whereas here, I was saying if he did the push-pull, he could get that Suba to drive through that knuckle, break the thing right out of my grip. So not only did I take his power past me, but now the sword ain't coming out. Then when I come in here, remember the Hijinage? Don't come up. Stay down. When you're doing this stuff, you have to assume the guy's coming. Don't come up into it. Stay down, look to see if it's safe. This is the same kind of ukemi you'd do if you were doing ukemi in a randori. Okay? Because you go down in the crowd, you could be sitting up right into a foot coming through your face or something because there's somebody else falling. So actually, you don't want to have the habit of popping right back up. Go down, check your space, see if it's okay to stand up. Okay? Definitely need to do that here because you got to assume if this guy's dumped you, he's coming. So he comes in, turn, same wave we did before. In, up, out, down, boom. Then, there it is. So this is Hijinage. Said, I'm showing you something you haven't done before. What should you be looking at first?
First time footwork.
So, when I set everybody to training, I look around and you're not doing the right footwork. You did not follow the program of looking to see exactly what footwork I did. Okay? If you don't have your feet where mine are, I don't see how you could possibly be doing it what I'm doing. Okay? So, he comes in here. Hip. Step turn. Slide out. Run the wave. Step and draw. And cut him. Okay? Hip. Step. Turn. Slide. Try it again. You're making this a heck of a lot harder than it needs to be. Okay? Jesse, can you help me? I want you to see. Okay? Grab here and here. Now, if you try and move this, it's hard. But if everything out here moves, if this moves this way and you extend out that way, you're not actually trying to move. This is actually a neutral pivot point. I'm actually pivoting around this and extending here. Not terribly hard to move the guy. Okay? So look what I'm doing. Remember I was saying the hardest thing in Aikido is to not let your attention go to the contact point. So a lot of you guys this guy grabs this, and now you're going, how do I move that? I don't move that. I take this hip away and extend out here. I don't move this at all, but he's holding on to it, so he's over there now. I'm literally, the Japanese term for this is sliding. Okay, so remember I was talking about the seam? Another way to talk about that is if it's not pushing and if it's not pulling, what's in between those two things? Sliding. The Japanese term for it is suberu, sliding. Got this from Gleason Sensei. So if you have a plane, I can slide along that plane. I'm not trying to push into it, but I'll stay on. So when I talk about the seam, the yin and yang, is that's a line. But in fact, when I'm dealing with a partner, there's whole spherical surfaces. And if I slide along them, I'm not going in and I'm not going out. I'm going right along that seam. So when he grabs me here, okay, he's trying to come into my center. So I don't even have to worry about going out to find his because he's coming to find mine. If I release this, all that energy he's trying to put into me goes over there. Now there's a hole. So I don't do anything here. I leave that here and I go doop-de-doo. And then I don't do anything here anyway. I just move myself forward. And if I drop on top of that, okay, boom, he falls. So a big, strong guy like this grabs this. I don't want to fight the grab. As soon as I do this, he gets strong. He's holding on to this thing. If this moves, he's over there. I don't do anything with my arms. My arms just, look. Strong. Hip. You see what I mean? Has nothing to do with the arms. It has to do with your core. That's why I like this practice. This practice, you could say, is, oh, this is advanced stuff, this is the kind of stuff you should teach the black belts. But I like to teach everybody this because this stuff gets you out of your bad habits of thinking you can use your arms for stuff. This is all core training because my hands are busy controlling my sword. Okay? That's my objection to a lot of what happened to later Aikido. When we lose the weapons context, all of a sudden arms are doing this and big extensions and when are you ever in a martial arts interaction going to be this big? It might be an interesting thing to open up and practice, and there's some breathing exercises and, let's embrace the universe type stuff. That has its own value. But as a martial art, stuff that's this big just doesn't work very well. Okay? So, we've been talking about, well, we didn't. but we should have talked about it at some point. Time and space are interchangeable. Okay? In other words, there's more space, it takes more time. If you talk about size of movement, that's just another way of talking about space. So, large movement takes more time than small movement. Okay? It's a no-brainer. So one of the principles I teach is that large movements don't beat small movements. Okay? So if you watch Satomi Sensei and Ikeda Sensei, you don't see them doing. You see them doing this. And you watch Ikeda Sensei or Satomi Sensei, if you look at them when they're doing technique, and I don't care whether they're doing basics or advanced, they're never not in a striking position. You think I can strike from here? When I get this extended, I've used up all my yang. There's no more yang possible. The only thing that can happen from here is yin. So they always stay in that mid-range, where there's a little more yin and a lot more yang possible from wherever they are. That's a position of potential. You're sitting here in a state of potential. So anyway, that's why I like this. I'm in my state of potential. I can strike here. I can draw here. I haven't committed anything. Okay? And the advantage to that is that while I keep my freedom to do all of that, which an empty hand would be my freedom to throw all my strikes, inside that, I have a core connection and solidity that allows me to unbalance my opponent, break his balance, take him down, and keep my freedom to do stuff within that. Does that make sense? Okay? So he comes in, and I've already beaten that, and then I can just dump him. Boom. And he can't restrict my freedom to move. That's what I'm looking to do. If you want to think about, we're talking about what I think Aikido really is. Could sum it up, 2 statements. One, it's about owning the space he wants to be in to attack me, and own it before he can really complete the attack effectively. And the other thing is, I don't want to do anything with my body that restricts my freedom to move any way I want. So anytime I tense up to deal with him, I restricted my freedom of movement. So I want complete relaxation so that when I'm dealing with him, I could also deal with somebody else. So even in a technique like this, Chris, no sword, could be another guy coming up behind me, I should be able to break this balance, kick him, and still dump him, and not lose any of it. Whereas if I'm all busy doing this, I saw Chris, but I'm so busy doing this. You feel me tighten up? I'm so busy fighting him, I can't actually respond to this guy. I want complete freedom to move. If Chris grabbed me now, I not only have this spiral, I have him. There he goes. Watch what happens now when I drop. I got both of them. That's a little application of what we did the first day. Remember we had multiple partners touch us and I could run it? I can still do that here. Or I can be dumping this guy, kick that guy, dump him more. Within whatever I'm doing, I'm completely free. So when you're training, if you do a systems check all the time, you do a little check and you go, am I doing something that froze my back hip? Could I throw that kick now if I need to? Or did I freeze it up trying to be strong? Almost always, what your brain's telling you is strong is wrong until you've redefined your paradigm. Okay? Your training has to reprogram your brain to understand things differently. And we were talking about this. This is not natural. Natural is fight or flight. Natural is I get scared, I go up. I want to reprogram so that natural is relaxing and dropping. If I get frightened, I drop. Okay? This is not what you're born with. Hardly anybody does this naturally. You can watch little kids before they've been taught to be fearful and tense. And they are naturally loose. And if you've ever tried to restrain a toddler when he doesn't want to be restrained, you realize how hard it is. Because the damn kids so sort of like little junior Sistema guys. There's no tension, and trying to control them is very difficult. They're really quite free to move because they don't tighten up. You know, you grab their wrist and everything else is still moving. It's only later that when somebody grabs my wrist, I tighten up, and then I go, oh, wow, he's really strong, I can't move. When did that happen? I grabbed my kid, he knew he could move. I'm trying to pull him that way, and the kid's like, he's everywhere but. I got almost no control of his center, even though I grabbed him really strongly. He's turning my hand purple here. So you see how we create this guy's power. We buy into it. Okay? He's only powerful if I allow him to be powerful. And I don't want it. I can let him have what he wants. I just don't have to let him have it the way he wanted it. He's got everything he wanted. He got the grab. He's really strong, except I'm over here now. Okay? As opposed to trying to beat everything or contend. He grabs that and goes, oh, no, you don't. He's like, I'm making him strong. He wants it, he gets it. I just can be over here when he gets it. Okay? So a little more. Try and keep relaxed. Monitor yourself. When you train, you should be monitoring yourself all the time. Where did I create tension in dealing with this guy? And then try and get rid of it. On the next repetition, if you felt you're freezing up your hip, next one, see if you can make sure you don't freeze up. Just as you throw. Is this still movable? Ah, it is. That means I could have done that.